esteemed group of panelists, none other than the film director and author, Mr. Vivek Ranjan Agnihotri. Writer and director, Mr. Rumi Jaffrey. CEO PVR Pictures, Mr. Kamal Gyanchandani ji. And film trade analyst as a moderator, Mr. Komal Nata. तालियां जोरदार होनी चाहिए, come on. Over to you, sir.
Hello friends, I'm Komal Nahata and I shall be moderating the session. Before I introduce our esteemed panelists, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Sunil Munjal for giving the film industry this wonderful platform to discuss an issue which has caught the fancy of not just the industry people, but the public at large. As you all know, in the last 2 years during the coronavirus pandemic lockdown, people have gotten used to watching content, consuming content on the OTT platforms, sitting in the comforts of their homes. As soon as the film industry reopened after the pandemic, a couple of films did very well, including one of our made by our esteemed panelist. I shall come to that later. But a lot of big budget, small budget, medium budget films flopped. And everybody wanted to know what was going wrong. Was it the content that was bad, or was it because of the formidable competition posed by OTT platforms and the habit that people had gotten into of consuming content at home that was affecting the business of films? So we shall discuss this important topic, this burning topic of OTT versus big screens, who's winning the battle for our screens and why. But now let me begin by introducing our esteemed panelists for the discussion. To my left is Mr. Kamal Gyanchandani, the CEO of PVR Pictures Limited and also the president of the Multiplex Association of India. I might add here that the multiplexes contribute the largest share of revenue for most films made in India today. The importance of single screen cinemas is reducing and that of the multiplexes is going up day by day. In the center is Mr. Vivek Ranjan Agnihotri. I don't know whether to introduce him as a national award-winning filmmaker or just say the Kashmir Files and leave everything to you. I was mentioning that one of the blockbuster films that released after the pandemic, the foremost film was made by Mr. Agnihotri, the Kashmir Files, and I don't need to tell you, each one of you has seen it. In fact, each one of you has repeated it twice, thrice probably, and discussed it ad nauseum. So that's Mr. Agnihotri. And at the extreme end is Mr. Rumi Jaffrey. Sorry, Dr. Rumi Jaffrey, because as the saying goes, laughter is the best medicine. And Rumi Jaffrey has distributed this medicine to umpteen number of people, countless number of times, because he has written so many comedies that we have laughed and died laughing in the cinema halls. Whether it's BB number 1 or Hero number 1 or Bade Miyan Chote Miyan or any successful hit and super hit comedy film, chances are that it's written by Dr. Rumi Jaffrey. Of course, very recently he directed a film called Chehre. Although it was not a comedy, it was a brilliant film, giving an insight into his mind that if he can make people laugh, he can also make people think. So these are my esteemed panelists. Without much ado, let me start by putting this question to Mr. Agnihotri. Is it actually the case that there is competition between OTT and single screens and the large screen, the big screen, cinema screen, or it is just a creation, a figment of imagination of the media?
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Hero Group. Thank you, Mr. Munjal, and wonderful audience. See, it's a complex question, but I'll try to have a simple answer to that. See, when Maruti came, everybody said, okay, it's going to change the market. It did change. But we don't realize that because Fiat and Ambassador stopped upgrading themselves. That's the problem. And when printing press came the first time, then at that time the theater people who used to do opera and all, and they said, okay, now opera is this the end of opera. But then they upgraded themselves. Today we have opera also, we have theater also, and we have printing press also. Then radio came, same thing came. People said, now radio has come, it's over. Then television came. See, whenever there is a technological disruption, there will be some new channel or avenue it will find to communicate stories, to tell stories. If Kindle has come, it doesn't mean that we stop writing stories, in print. Similarly, what is happening here, OTT found so much of space, because there were no films were releasing. That was one of the reasons. But we have to go a little back also. What happened was that stories have to be told in a certain way so that they connect with the audience. And it's very simple. When I go to management institutes, they ask me the same question. I just tell them, okay, you pick up the 10, 15 films which you say have not worked. And you will find there is no common man in those films. There are no common issues. There's no common problem. Now, how do you expect the audience to relate with those stories? It's not about them. Any story to be successful has to either intellectually stimulate you or emotionally stimulate you. Or it has to be a physical, it should stimulate your five senses, like these superhero films and big extravagant spectacle, what you call. The problem is that we got disconnected with the audiences and we started making films for the trade. We said, okay, about the trade. And same mistake we are making again. A lot of people started making films, I don't know now, but in last couple of years, अच्छा theater में नहीं चलेगी तो OTT में तो चली जाएगी तो I am safe. And I am telling you, I am in the industry. Rumi ji also knows. Everybody talks in these terms. कि यार OTT में price safe. What should be the budget of the film? Whatever OTT gives us. So we stopped thinking that a film requires this kind of a design, this kind of a production, and we started making film for the distribution channels. I think that's, and so whenever you go wrong in fundamentals, no business will work. And we are seeing the repercussions of that now. I think the only thing we need is we have to tell stories about the common people, about common interest, whether it is television, whether it's cinema or OTT. When TV came, I remember when Z came and Star, everybody was saying this is the end. No films after this. Films are gone, finished. But then they started consuming, we started making films for television. When music industry was on the boom, we started making it for music industry. ये कल ही आप मुझे बता रहे थे कि डायरेक्टर और एक्टर की कोई चिंता नहीं करता था, म्यूजिक डायरेक्टर नदीम श्रवण होने चाहिए बस. So he was telling me yesterday. So films were sold on their name. We are again making the same mistake, thinking that OTT is like going to end cinema. It's not going to happen. Cinema will stay. Cinema will always be the king of entertainment, storytelling. Nothing can replace it. That's what I believe.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. It reassures all film lovers and the film industry people that cinema is here to stay. Rumi ji, मुझे आप ये बताइए कि आप क्रिएटिव इंसान हैं, आप लिखते हैं, आप फिल्में डायरेक्ट करते हैं, विवेक जी की तरह. पर क्या ये OTT के आने से आपको ऐसे लगता है कि आपके राइटिंग में बदलाव आना चाहिए या बदलाव आ चुका है? और सेकेंडली, क्या आप इनसे सहमत हैं कि OTT आने से सिनेमा बड़ा पर्दा खत्म नहीं होगा? यू थिंक सो?
बिल्कुल, मैं बिल्कुल एग्री करता हूं विवेक के साथ कि सिनेमा पे बिल्कुल असर नहीं पड़ेगा. क्या है, OTT हो सिनेमा हो, दोनों इंटरटेनमेंट की विधा है. लोग इंटरटेन होना चाहते हैं और हम इंटरटेन करना चाहते हैं. मैं कैसे मिसाल दूं कि OTT और सिनेमा में क्या फ़र्क है कि जैसे एक नावल है, गोदान है, आदमी नावल घर में पढ़ता है और मुशायरे में बाहर जाता है. वहाँ एक गज़ल होती है 5 शेर की, एक नज़्म होती है छोटी, लेकिन उसके लिए आपको मुशायरे में जाना पड़ता है और आपको घर में एक नॉवेल पढ़ना पड़ती है। ये फ़र्क है सिनेमा में और OTT। दूसरा, अगर लाइटर वे में बताऊं, एक घरेलू अंदाज में, तो ये होता है कि भाई जैसे सिनेमा का इन्होंने सही बोला, हम लोग कब से सुन रहे हैं कि टीवी आया, अब सिनेमा ख़त्म हो गया, VHS आ गए, अब DVD आ गया, LD आ गया, सिनेमा औरतें घर में देख रही हैं। लेकिन आप देखिए थिएटर बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, स्क्रीन बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, बिजनेस बढ़ता जा रहा है। जैसे आज हम लोग इतने एडवांस हो गए हैं टेक्निकली, आज हमारे घर के खाने का स्टैंडर्ड भी बढ़ गया है। हमारे नौकर को हम एक वीडियो भेज देते हैं कि सुनो इस तरह से तुम हलीम बनाओ, ये मैं लिंक भेज रहा हूँ, इस तरह से बिरयानी बनाओ। तो खाने का स्टैंडर्ड घर पे बढ़ गया है, लेकिन रेस्टोरेंट भी बढ़ गए हैं और रेस्टोरेंट में भीड़ भी बढ़ गई है। तो इसी तरह जो है आप सिनेमा भी देखते जाएंगे, OTT भी देखते जाएंगे, दोनों ही इंटरटेन करने की विधा हैं। और मैं तो सिनेमा के साथ खड़ा हूँ और ज़िंदगी भर कोशिश करूँगा कि सिनेमा ज़िंदा रहे और पब्लिक ज़िंदा रखेगी।
क्या बात है, क्या बात है। चलिए, आप दो क्रिएटिव इंसानों ने तो बात कर ली। अब जो ग्रास रूट्स लेवल पर आम जनता से रिएक्ट करते हैं, यानी सिनेमा वाले, कमल जी मैं आपसे जानना चाहूंगा, रियलिटी क्या है आफ्टर दी पॉपुलैरिटी ऑफ OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स? क्या आपको ऐसे लगता है कि पब्लिक का फ्लो सिनेमा घरों में कम हुआ है? Is the public frequenting cinemas less? Are they frequenting cinemas only for a certain kind of films, or what is it?
कोमल जी, थैंक यू फॉर हैविंग मी। एंड आई थिंक पहले तो OTT का कोई आदमी होना चाहिए था यहाँ पे डिफेंड करने के लिए, क्योंकि दोनों फिल्म मेकर्स थिएटर्स के साथ हैं और हम तो ऑब्वियसली थिएटर्स में ही हैं।
चलिए मैं डबल रोल प्ले कर लेता हूँ। मैं किसी OTC से जुड़ा नहीं हूँ, लेकिन OTT, आई प्ले द डेविल्स एडवोकेट।
OTT लोग घर में देखते हैं ना, इसलिए घर में है।
नहीं, सो I think at the outset when you started, you mentioned that we had couple of hits and then we also had some disappointments. A phase where films were not performing. But what I can share with you is that February when COVID finished and March is when the regular films started. We actually, when I say we, I mean cinemas across the country, we experience demand by force. मार्च में विवेक जी की भी फिल्म आई, पर उसके अलावा बहुत सारी फिल्म्स आई जिन्होंने बहुत ही अच्छा परफॉर्मेंस दिया बॉक्स ऑफिस पे. So much so that Q1, which is April, May, June of this financial year, this calendar year, turned out to be the biggest quarter that PVR has had in the entire history of his business.
Oh, wow.
And this was not just, and we are a listed company, so all our data is available freely on our website and various other public platforms. So the fact is that in spite of COVID, 2 years of cinemas being shut, people going out of habit, people having been forced to stay at home, watch, consume content only at home, in spite of this fear that if I go to a theater or a public place, there could be, I could come back with an infection. In spite of all of these issues, cinemas bounced back in a big manner. As soon as we opened, we saw a lot of reception from people. People were just dying to be out of home, and dying to is maybe incorrect in this context. I should not be using in context of COVID, but people just wanted to be out of home, and we benefited tremendously from that demand. It is also a fact that Komalji, what he was saying, that in July and August, we've had terrible 2 months, for whatever reason, and I won't get into reasons, and maybe Komalji is a better person to analyze those reasons. But we saw the worst 2 months that we've seen in the last 6-7 years. Some of the big films that we were pegging a lot of hopes on disappointed us at the box office. But that's the DNA of our business. We've got peaks and valleys. Hits bhi aati hain, flops bhi aati hain. A lot of films were in production for a long time. Moods, tastes, preferences, a lot of things have changed, and maybe that was the reason why we saw what we saw in July and August. But now with Brahmastra, things are looking extremely positive. But going back to the original question, I totally agree with Romi ji, and I also agree with Vivek ji that cinemas are here to stay. If COVID could not, put brakes on this industry, then probably cinema is not as weak as we think it is. We face these technological advancements, we've had wars, we've had these epidemics, pandemics, even in the past. And each time cinema has bounced back with new vigor, with a better, stronger force. This time will be no difference. I think we've not just bounced back, but I think the next couple of years would be the best that we've had in the business.
Well, you said that I'll be in a better position. I'll just say one thing. All the films that have flopped in the months of July and August, I always tell people, it's not really cause for concern. The cause for concern would be, अगर फिल्में अच्छी होती और नहीं चलती. ये जो फिल्में flop हुई है, they deserved to flop because they were not good content. So this particular aspect, जैसे विवेक जी ने कहा कि we are not upgrading ourselves, तो फिर we will go out of fashion. तो मेरे ख्याल से this underlines that OTT and cinema can coexist. It's not as if OTT is eating into our collections. But having said that, कमल जी, आपसे मैं एक और बात जानना चाहूँगा, क्या कहीं ऐसा हो रहा है that our ticket prices are so high that cinema is becoming a luxury and affordable only for the rich and affluent class and not really for the middle class or the lower middle class, and therefore perforce they have turned to OTT?
No, it's a fair question, Komalji, and in an inflationary economy where everything is becoming more expensive, increase in cost of ticket price is an equal concern, and this is a discretionary expense, right? I mean, it's not like kapde ya khana pina ki that you have to spend money on it. People have a choice to not spend on entertainment. We are fully sensitive to this aspect, but let me tell you some facts. The reality is that PVR, which is spread across the country in about 75, 80 odd towns and cities, our average ticket price is no more than 245 rupees. And 245 rupees in an inflationary economy where everything grows expensive by 6-7% every year, there is a cost to quality and safety, because we invest a lot of money in safety of our customers. A lot of money goes into giving, service standards which are absolutely international standard. There is a cost which is attached to it.
Sorry to interrupt you here, but probably I'm also including the cost of concessionaires. You order popcorn, you want samosas, you want a cold drink, you want a bottle of water, and that doesn't come cheap. So
No, you're totally right. I mean, it's the entire expenditure for the experience, and it's not just F&B, but it's also the effort to get out of home, get into your vehicle, the travel costs, the parking costs. Everything is getting more expensive. Absolutely no doubt about that. But the reality is, there are choices available across the country. You've got cinemas which are expensive, you've got cinemas which are inexpensive. Within these cinemas which are expensive, you've got shows which are inexpensive, you've got days when tickets are sold at lesser prices. But our experience has been that for these small ticket experiences or expenses, and the reason I call it small ticket is in relation to high ticket expenses like buying clothes or traveling for a holiday or something of that sort, people tend to upsize their experience. अगर आप जाके देखेंगे कैफे कॉफी डे और a smaller unbranded chain of coffee or tea, you would find more people in Starbucks, which is 2x of an unbranded chain, simply because people want to upsize these experiences. People, want to have a great time when they go out with their family or with their friends or with their girlfriend or whoever they're going out with. They want to have a great time. And I think these small ticket expenses, people are looking for premium expenses. That's the feedback we are getting from people, because every time we offer a facility which is where we strip down the service standards or we remove some of the bells and whistles from the experience, we get a negative feedback. So this is slightly counterintuitive, but the reality is that people are more receptive to a premium experience. Indian society is aspirational, but it's also a fact that we are an inflationary society, country, economy, and as a result, everything goes up. We have no choice but to, if you want to maintain a certain service standard, you have to invest more. And the cost is sort of emitting from that.
पॉइंट एक्सेप्टेड विवेक जी आपसे जानना चाहूँगा कि नेटफ्लिक्स ने अपने फिगर्स जब रिवील किए a couple of months back, Netflix said that they had made huge losses in India. They retrenched staff, etc. Which does it in some way prove that OTT platforms are bleeding and therefore the big screen need not really worry? Is it related?
I think first of all, I don't compare both of them. I think they are two different things. But also, cinema is going to work because of OTT.
Please elaborate.
या मैं वही आपको बता रहा हूँ. आप मुझे अभी फ्लॉप और हिट की सब बात करते हैं. लॉट ऑफ genius journalists write lot of articles that cinema everything is bombing and OTT is on the rise. मैं आपसे कॉमन सेंस का क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ. Netflix has more than almost 1,000 हिंदी shows. आप मुझे 5 के ज़्यादा नाम भी नहीं बता सकते. This Friday they have released 5 new shows. You don't even know their names. Hotstar, Amazon, they're full of shows you don't even know they exist. And somebody has to do this research. We are not a research-oriented society, unfortunately. That's why we raise lots of wrong questions. And then people get involved in answering wrong questions. So then the environment is full of wrong answers. And then after some time, wrong answers become truth. This is the problem. First of all, we are posing wrong questions, The thing is, OTT is full of so much of trash you cannot imagine. Trash, I'm using the word trash, and there's a reason. Because it's a commission show. Why Doordarshan, if anybody who's from my generation would know, Doordarshan has produced some of the finest content on this earth. There was a time when it started, if you see Bharat Ek Khoj, Mragnani, all these Ramayana, Mahabharata, forget that Ek Kahani, best of the directors, right from Shyam Benegals to Govind Nilanis to Tamas to Bunyad, Ramesh Sippy, it was a golden period, right? But then why did it collapse? Because then they started commissioning programs. Earlier, it used to be sponsored programs. So you have to go in the market, find a sponsor, convince hero group that I'm making the best. They would judge and then only you get money. Then they started commissioning. Once they started commissioning, then everybody became lazy. They said, "Acha, ab to mera commission hi ho gaya kya hai?" Same thing happens with OTT. Your program is commissioned. Okay, and after some time, look at the second season, all the programs in second season start falling. So if I ask you, people ask even a rickshawala, he can tell you name of 100 films. You ask him which are the 10 films which released in last 3 months, he can name 8 or 7 out of them. You ask somebody, okay, in last 2 years during COVID, tell me which are the best shows you have seen. He can't name more than Family Man, this 3-4 se zyada naam nahi bata sakte. What is the point of consuming something if you do not remember what you have consumed after some time? And this is going to help cinema because the fatigue level of OTT is much higher. It's exponentially higher than the fatigue level of cinema, because cinema, you are visiting once a week. Wherever you are sitting, you are consuming. Okay, and then after some time, there should be a difference between the observer and the observed. I mean, the scenario and the audience. There should be some distance. There should be a sense of attainability. Okay, I have done this and therefore I have achieved it. जैसे मैंने कहा मुशायरा सुनने जहाँ मेहनत करनी पड़ती है, अब आप बैठे हुए हैं और कोई आपके पास में बोल रहा है लगातार, you won't bother about that. This is the problem with OTT, and all over the world they are suffering because of this. So Netflix, and the third problem is we don't know about the reach. Most of the things you hear about OTT is not coming from the consumer, like he has a feedback. It's not coming from the consumer, it's coming from media. Exactly. I was in UP recently and somebody asked me a question in an event like this. And this is one question which I think everybody who's concerned about entertainment should think about it. They asked me one question, Rumi bhai. उन्होंने मुझसे ये पूछा, अगर आपका ये OTT इतना ज़बरदस्त है, तो मिर्ज़ापुर के लोगों ने मिर्ज़ापुर सीरियल क्यों नहीं देखा? And this shows that it's not penetrating, it's not going It's not penetrating.
True, true.
You know, and OTT is like that elite club. It's like a golf club where they are discussing about golf and they are glorifying this is the best sport in the world. You know, so you are making golf out of OTT, but the real game is cricket. You know.
Lovely. I think Kamalji wants to add something to what Mr. Agnihotri said.
So, Vivek ji has, spoken about the content side, the creative side of the offerings that streaming platforms have. And you're right. I mean, streaming platforms typically are mother of all libraries. So you'll have all sorts of content. You'll have great content and you'll also have ugly content. But from industry perspective, and I'm leaning on the side of OTT now. There is actually a positive cycle which is taking place between streaming platforms and theaters. The reason I say that is because producers ke point of view say there is another way to slice and dice the content and monetize content. And the fact remains our business, like any other business, is also about commerce. It's also about return on investment. So now producers have another way to monetize their content and make money out of it. The other thing is and this is something which we are noticing, we are not able to put our finger and say this is exactly what is happening, but we get a sense that this is happening, is that there are films which when you release in theaters, they are small in terms of box office potential for whatever reason. But then they come out on streaming platform and subsequently on television platforms, and they gain a lot of popularity, penetration, a lot of people end up watching it. And if that film has a sequel, if that film becomes like an IP which is developed into part 2, KGF as a case in point.
I was about to say that, yes.
KGF is a
and
case
KGF.
in point, which released in theaters and it was reasonable, but nothing great in terms of box office. Lot of people saw it on streaming platforms, television pe bahut logon ne dekhi. As a result, when it came out, KGF 2, when it came out this year, it gave us disproportionate returns. I mean, we couldn't imagine the way box office exploded, the number of people who came out supporting that film. And we feel streaming platforms helped in the success of KGF 2 in theaters. So there is also a positive cycle.
Superb. I'll just put into figures what Kamalji said. KGF, the net collections in India were 40 crore and KGF chapter 2 was 400 crore. So what he says is the OTT platforms helped the business of KGF chapter 2. रूमी जी, आपसे जानना चाहूंगा कि अगर फिल्म के लिए लिखना है और OTT के लिए लिखना है, आपके पास दो चॉइसेस हैं, रेवेन्यू सेम है, आपकी फी सेम है, आप दिल से किसको प्रेफरेंस देंगे?
मेरा इष्ट तो सिनेमा है, मेरी महबूबा तो वो है, तो पहले तो वही है। लेकिन एक चीज़ और जो मैं यहाँ पे ऐड करना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि पिछले दिनों काफ़ी बड़ी बड़ी फिल्म नहीं चली हैं, तो क्योंकि इस प्रोफेशन में हूँ तो थोड़ा सा मैंने भी अपना दिमाग लगाया, रिसर्च किया कि इसका क्या रीज़न हो सकता है। तो सबसे बड़ी चीज़ जो तुमने बोला कि जो फिल्म नहीं चली वो सचमुच अच्छी नहीं थी। जैसे पैंडेमिक में भी रूही चली थी, नई फिल्म थी वो, है ना, गंगूबाई चली और अपना अभी भूल भुलैया चली। तो मुझे ऐसा लगा एक पैंडेमिक में एक चेंज मुझे ऐसा फील हुआ है कि आया है कि 2 साल लोगों ने मतलब घर में बैठ के बाय फोर्स बोलो, मजबूरी में बोलो, उन्होंने OTT वगैरह सब चीज़ें देखी। और ऐसा मेरा तजुर्बा है कि जैसे अगर आप 10 दिन तक आप बिना शक्कर की चाय पियेंगे तो 11वें दिन वो आपको अच्छी नहीं लगेगी, शक्कर वाली चाय, आपका टेस्ट बदल जाता है। तो इस 2 साल में लोगों ने जो कंटेंट देखा है वो बहुत ही अलग कंटेंट देखा है, तो टेस्ट थोड़ा बदला है। अब जो रेगुलर कमर्शियल फिल्म होती थी जिसको हम फार्मूला फिल्म बोलते थे, जैसे हीरोपंती, बच्चन पांडे, ये शायद पैंडेमिक से पहले शायद चल जाती, लेकिन उसके बाद नहीं चली। तो फिक्र भी होती है हमको कि हमको, अच्छा हमारी इंडस्ट्री में, हम सब इंडस्ट्री के लोग हैं, हर आदमी ये बोलता है कि मैं कुछ नया बना रहा हूँ, और ये मैं 35 साल से सुन रहा हूँ कि अब वो नहीं चलेगा जो चलता था, अब नया चलेगा। ये सुन के उम्र गुजर गई और अभी भी लोग, अच्छा कई लोग ये बोलते हैं हम बना रहे हैं नया, लेकिन उनको ये नहीं पता कि नया अच्छा है या बुरा है। नया कई बार खराब भी हो सकता है कि जैसे, अच्छा कई लोग दूसरों की राय पे चलते हैं कि मैं नाम नहीं लूँगा, मैंने एक दोस्त से पूछा कि क्या कर रहे हो, बड़े फिल्म मेकर हैं। बोले अभी तो मैं OTT बना रहा हूँ। मैंने कहा फिल्म क्यों नहीं बने? बोले बहुत लॉस हो चुका है। मैंने बहुत दोस्तों से पूछा क्या बनाऊँ, तो मेरे दोस्तों ने मुझे एडवाइस किया OTT बना। तो मैंने कहा एक छोटी सी कहानी मैंने बचपन में सुनी थी कि एक आदमी की भैंस बीमार हो गई, तो वो अपने दोस्त के पास, उसे याद आया उसकी भैंस भी बीमार हुई थी, मैं जाके पूछता हूँ उसने क्या दवा दी थी। तो वो दोस्त के पास गया कि यार मुझे एक मशवरा दे दे कि मेरी भैंस बीमार हो गई, तूने अपनी भैंस को क्या दवाई दी थी? उसने दवाई का नाम बताया, ला के उन्होंने दवाई दे दी, इनकी भैंस मर गई। तो वो भाग के उसके पास गया कि यार मेरी भैंस तो मर गई। तो बोला मर तो मेरी भी गई थी। तो ये खुद भी मरेंगे और तुमको भी मरवाएंगे। अपना दिमाग लगाओ कि हमको जो बनाना है वो अच्छा बनाना है।
रूमी जी बेहतरीन एग्जाम्पल दिया, और घड़ी बता रही है, इशारा कर रही है कि हमें यहीं रोकना पड़ेगा, लेकिन बहुत अच्छा एग्जाम्पल दिया। और मैं तो बस यही कहूँगा इसको समराइज करते हुए कि आप सबकी राय सुन के वो भैंस मर गई, वो सब हो गया, लेकिन बड़ा पर्दा, बिग स्क्रीन नहीं मर सकता है। इट्स नाइस, OTT yani the small screen and the big screen both will coexist, and therefore the revenues of the film industry are bound to increase. क्वालिटी यानी आप एंड यूजर्स के पास बहुत अच्छा कंटेंट पहुंचेगा। पार्डन जो 2-3 महीनों में आपको देखने मिला है, कभी कभी ऐसा दौर आता है, बट यू कैन रेस्ट अश्योर्ड दैट द कंटेंट, द क्वालिटी ऑफ द कंटेंट विल बी ग्रेट।
एक पॉइंट छोटा सा ऐड कर देता हूं, बिल्कुल सही कह रहे हैं ये। मैं आपको एक बात तजुर्बे की बताता हूं, मेरा तजुर्बा नहीं है, इस दुनिया का तजुर्बा है। कहानी दिल से अगर सुनाई जाए तो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता है कि उस कहानी को सुनाने वाले राजा हैं या रिक्शे वाला है, दादी हैं कि दादा हैं, वो 5 स्टार होटल में सुनाई जा रही है कि पान की दुकान पे सुनाई जा रही है। कोई भी कहानी जब दिल से सुनाई जाएगी, ऑडियंस कनेक्ट करेगी, चाहे वो OTT पे हो, चाहे टेलीविजन में हो, चाहे वो सिनेमा में हो।
Superb, very well put. Thank you, friends. You have been a lovely audience. Because ये film industry की बात है, I'll just throw it open to the house. 2 questions, very brief questions, equally brief answers. Sure. Please
Okay.
introduce yourself.
If you could just guide me, which way do I go?
There's he.
Okay,
ये तो
Just introduce yourself
ये
in
तो
a brief
आपका
question,
last- ये तो
followed
last
by a
session
brief
है।
answer.
लास्ट सेशन नहीं है आपका।
My name is Pawan Malhotra. The panelists, Komal especially said that the repertoire is the king, Romi Jafri. Now, भूल भुलैया और जुग जुग जियो में क्या स्क्रिप्ट थी, वो क्यों चली? दोनों, they were not better than 83.
जिन्होंने देखी है उनसे पूछी क्यों चली। भाई देखने वालों से फिल्म चलती है।
मैं ट्रेड
पसंद आया
एनालिस्ट हूं,
होगा।
मैं बता सकता हूं प्लीज। भूल भुलैया एंड जुग जुग जियो। अव्वल तो जुग जुग जियो नहीं चली, जुग जुग जियो फ्लॉप है। जुग जुग जियो was expected to do and ought to have done 200 crore. It stopped at 75-80 crore, so it is a flop. नहीं चली, तो आपका पॉइंट राइट है कि क्या था वो नहीं चली। भूल भुलैया 2, अक्सर हम कॉमेडीज को एब्सोल्युटली ऐसे ट्रीट करते हैं कि हंसाया तो क्या हुआ, बट द इमोशन ऑफ लाफ्टर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। उस फिल्म में मैड कॉमेडी पर जो पब्लिक हंसी दीवानी हो गई। 83 का नहीं चलना, ये मैंने भी 83 को रिव्यू करने के बाद आई एनालाइज्ड। हम भगवान के ऊपर बहुत विश्वास करते हैं। 83 में there was no hero in the sense he was true to what happened, the 1983 World Cup, and उन्होंने ये बताया कि a stroke of good luck and हम जीत गए। अगर भगवान हमें हेल्प करता तो शायद ये पिक्चर हिट हो जाती। स्ट्रोक ऑफ गुड लक कैन नॉट बी a hero. Our hero was Kapil Dev, but Kapil Dev didn't do anything in the film and in real life to win the match. It just happened. And हमारी हिंदी ऑडियंस happened से खुश नहीं होती है। They want it underlined. किसने किया? अगर हीरो ने नहीं किया, भगवान ने हेल्प किया, तो भगवान की मेहरबानी है हीरो पर, तो हमारा हीरो ने कुछ किया। उस फिल्म में वो एक्सिलरेशन नहीं मिला।
All right, sir. Question this way.
Thank you. My name is Ajay Sinha, and Kamalji, my question is to you. We have spoken about OTT and we have also spoken about multiplex also. In your opinion, how do you see the future of single screen theatre in future? How do you find it to be?
We have you're from Delhi, I'm assuming, so you would have seen Delight Cinema, which has been around for many decades. And I can tell you that even today, when a new film releases, the barometer or the gauge of whether people are liking a film in North, in Delhi and UP and other adjacent places is Delight Cinema. So when you look at the first show, that's how you gauge whether people are liking or disliking the film. The point I'm trying to highlight is that good quality theaters, whether they are single screens or multiplexes, and the reverse of this is also true, bad quality multiplexes, they will struggle to attract people. Like I mentioned earlier, discretionary spend है, कोई force नहीं कर रहा picture देखने के लिए. अगर आपको थिएटर अच्छा लगेगा, पिक्चर अच्छी लगेगी, तभी आप जाके देखेंगे. ये बात आपका करेक्ट है कि multiplexes have conceptual advantage over single screen because they have the advantage of choice and they can play a lot many more films. And unfortunately in Delight or single screens, if you play a film which does not do well, then you're stuck for a week. तो वो एक conceptual issue है, but otherwise good quality theater, single हो या multiplex हो, definitely attract करेगा.
यानी कंटेंट भी अच्छा हो तो चलेगा, सिनेमा भी अच्छा हो तो चलेगा. We all want quality, whether it's the outlet, the platform, or the content. Thank you so much, Rumi ji, Vivek ji, Kamal ji. Thank you so much, and thank you, Mind Summit, for giving the film industry this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would request you to please be seated just for 5 more minutes. We have a very special film. Since it's all about films over here, so on the short screen we have a very special film. This is the Serendipity Arts Festival that we have, and it starts from 15th to 23rd December in Panjim, Goa. So if you're there, definitely do visit us. This is the Serendipity Arts Festival.
भाई आप रुक क्यों गए?
गाओ ना बेटी गाओ.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. 15th to 23rd December at Panjim, Goa. Would request none other than Dr. Chandan Chaudhary ji, Senior Associate ISB Dean, and of course, Executive Director, Munjal Institute of Global Manufacturing, to kindly grace the stage to present the memento to our esteemed group of panelists. Can we have a round of applause for sir? Thank you, gentlemen. Can we have a round of applause for all the panelists? With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we will exit this hall right now. कुछ चीजों का प्लीज जरूर ध्यान रखिएगा. प्लीज ध्यान से सुन लीजिए. उठने से पहले आप ध्यान से सुन लीजिए. All those who are in the hall, the audience, if you have the